Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Live on this 22nd day of January in 2023. Already, we are near the end of January in 2023. This year already feels like it is going to go fast. So, anyway, you guys are blissfully unaware of the drama that has unfolded in this studio before starting the show. I had no audio. I had no audio whatsoever going into OBS. Completely no reason whatsoever. I have no idea, or at least I had no idea. I worked it out, it's fine, but it was just like a bit of a panic for maybe about 20-25 minutes trying to work out why it's not working. All my OBS settings were correct. Because I checked them against a snapshot that I had taken of my settings a while ago, knowing that occasionally Windows, when you do a Windows update, sometimes it blows away all of your settings. Don't know why it does it, but it does. And so I have a screenshot of all of my settings so that I can very, very quickly put them back when they get reset to default. Which is, as I said, happens with OBS. But the thing I had not counted upon was that somehow Windows Sound Control has set my outputs of Windows to a completely other set of outputs on my Studio 1824C that are not even connected to anything. So how I was actually able to hear audio coming from the speakers, I don't know. But I had audio coming through the speakers. I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. Everything is correct. In OBS, it's just not hearing anything. And then I worked it out. I went to Windows Sound Control and realized that somehow the output had changed to line out 3 and 4 instead of line out 1 and 2. As soon as I flipped it to 1 and 2, magically OBS was now hearing everything. But yeah, there was a minor panic there for a little while. I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do my show. I'm not going to be able to make any videos. And I was just like, come on, Lipsham, you're a tech support agent. Think logically. You can fix this. 5 minutes later, I fixed it. But still, it was a small drama for a little while. And yeah, you know how it is. You get a little bit. The heart rate accelerates a wee bit and you start thinking illogically. But once I slowed myself down, went out of the studio for 5 minutes, took a deep breath, came back in and applied some logic, I figured it out. So there you go. That was the drama before we started. So there it is, folks. But welcome. Anyway, let's go see who's here. Now, I'm already aware because I spied the name as it appeared in the chat just before I started. We have a couple of new people. Radio Tuck Thumprit, I know who that is. Yeah, I know who you are. But we also have Guy LaBelle. I think Guy's been here maybe a couple of times. But Donna Knight is new. Hello, Donna. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. I hope you find this useful and helpful to you as we basically explore Studio One and get to answering your questions. That's basically what this show is all about. I answer your questions about Studio One and a few other extraneous questions as well. So I'll take some questions on music theory, acoustics, arranging, composing, stuff like that. I'll take questions on that kind of thing as well. But really, I try to, the scope of this show, I try to keep to Studio One and usage questions or particular features that you're not sure about or things like that, is what I try and keep it to. But yeah, that's what we try and do here. So let's go see who is here. Who was first in the house? Well, I can tell you who that was. That was Radio Tuck Fumprit, who I know who that is. John Hawk is here. Kevin from Kevin's Guitar Stories is here. He's going to catch the replay because there is, in capital letters, a big football game coming on, which is cool. So I hope you enjoy the game. And I hope the side that you are supporting wins. We've also got Kyle Trajuziak here and Tony Stringer, who I've not seen for ages. Tony, welcome back. I'm glad to see you, mate. He says, happy live tonight. Studio 15 crashes twice because I was playing around with iZotope plugins. But two new songs are on their way to Spotify and one more tomorrow, which is great. So I'm glad you've got your songs out there, even though you had a couple of crashes, which may or may not be related to iZotope. It might be that it was just coincidental that you happened to be using an iZotope plugin when the crash happened. It might be something else that caused the crash. Hard to tell unless you are able to read your crash report or your dump file, as I think they are called it in Windows. So otherwise, it's a little bit tricky. And even actually then, sometimes a crash report or a dump file can be completely inconclusive. And all it will tell you is, hey, Studio One crashed. We don't know why, but it just crashed. And then you have to go through a bit of a troubleshooting process to try and eliminate suspects until you find out what exactly caused it. That can be tricky. And Just Bob is also here. He has a terrific question, which we're going to get to in just a minute. Who else is here? Alps Media, my awesome sponsor for Sunday Night Live, is here too. And Mike Johnson, my dear friend from Music to Motion, is here. Let's see, and I've already mentioned Donna and Guy, and Bobby Booth is here. Bob McGraw from his Music Cave says hello to everybody. Let's see, Billy Morgan is here as well. And Old School Funk and Soul is here, which is awesome. John Lake is here. DJ Vu is here. Kingston Dread over in the West Indies is here. And I think we got to the bottom of it. So if you are new here and you're watching and you're not subscribed to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell and select all notifications so you don't miss anything that I put out on this channel, including this show. But also, by subscribing, within a few minutes, the chat will be opened up and you will be able to say hello and ask your questions. I've set, for all these shows, I've set the chat to subscribers only. The reason being was for a while, when it was not set to subscribers only, we had some unsavory characters, shall we say, try and disrupt the show and post some inappropriate stuff. So I made it to subscribers only, and so they basically have to subscribe if they want to post their inappropriate stuff. And if they do that, we will just ban them. I have a fantastic team of moderators here who will deal with them ever so swiftly. We have fast justice here. All right, so let's see, John Lake is here. He says, I can't take all this drama. Yeah, I couldn't either. All right, so we are 10 minutes into the show, so let's get to that question from Bob. And whilst I'm answering that question, if you would like to ask a question and direct that to me, then please type at Jonny Lipsham Studios at the start of your question and then ask your question. The reason why I ask you to do that is because basically what that does is that highlights my name in red. And that helps me to differentiate a question directed to me from just you guys generally talking amongst yourselves, which I totally love. I'm so happy for you guys getting to know each other and talking to each other. That's great. But if you want to direct a question to me, please do that. And that way I can get to your question quicker and hopefully not miss your question, which I don't want to do. So Bob's question is a really interesting one, actually, and it's to do with resonant frequencies. So he says the oracle room, or the Safin, I have to read this word right, Saflieni hypoqueum, resonates at 111 hertz. This frequency is called the holy frequency, and it creates a meditation type state in humans. Yes, it can induce a trance-like state. Actually, any frequency can do that, by the way. It doesn't have to be 111. It can be any other frequency can do that. So he then says, how can we create this low frequency using Studio One plugins? Is it possible to hone in on a frequency and nestle it into a piece of trance music, for example? Yeah. Now, here's the thing. The thing that you have to understand is that what you are experiencing in that particular room is the resonant frequency of that room. What does that mean? It means that a particular frequency will not only bounce off the walls, but will also multiply by itself inside the room and create a resonance, which means that every time you hit that particular frequency, it's like that note just sticks out a country mile. It explodes within that room and it fills that room. So if you have 5, 10, 15 or 20 people, 5, 10 or 15 or 20 people in the room, and they all hit that particular frequency and they sustain that particular frequency, then it's going to build up and build up and build up and build up as the whole room resonates at that frequency. You will find that there is a resonant frequency to pretty much every space, every room. Now, different building materials will make resonant frequencies more obvious. Particular shape of a room will make frequencies more obvious and bring out particular frequencies. So something like this room here, which is kind of, it's just a bedroom in a very modern house just built in 2021. So it's less than 2 years old. It does have a resonant frequency. This room is pitched in A flat. My old room in my old studio back in Edinburgh, that one was pitched somewhere between G and G flat. It was kind of like G half flat. And I used the Studio One tone generator to find that out. Basically, you set the tone generator up on a channel in Studio One, and then you start moving the pitch around until you find that particular note that sticks out in the room. That'll be kind of like a room mode or a resonant frequency of your room. So generally speaking, for mixing purposes or recording purposes, you don't want those kind of resonant frequencies. You want to eliminate them. However, in this particular case, what Bob is talking about here is being able to capture that particular resonance. Just using the tone generator and having that set at a particular pitch throughout your song is probably not going to do it. All you're going to get is just a sine wave or a square wave or whatever you set it at that particular frequency that just runs the length of your song. You're not going to get the resonant effect because it doesn't work like that. It's you know, a resonance is to do with a frequency encountering surfaces in the room, and then basically instead of the reverberation cancelling out the source frequency, it amplifies it essentially. And that's what those resonant frequencies do. And the only way to really capture them is to basically take a microphone and an interface and a laptop to a room like that and capture it. Now, what you might be able to find is that somebody has already done that already and has been to this particular room that you refer to and has captured that resonant frequency, has captured that room tone, and basically developed what we would call an impulse response for that particular room. And if they have, you can load that into the open air reverb plugin in Studio One. And you can then use a combination of the tone generator and this particular impulse response, and you can maybe get something similar, but you'll never quite get exactly the same thing. Unless you, like I said, unless you do a little bit of reamping where you take your interface, your microphone, and your laptop and maybe some speakers, park that setup in the center of the room, and then play the tone generator, let that fill the room, and then with your microphone, capture that resonant frequency. And then you could use that as kind of like a loop throughout your, throughout any subsequent piece of music. And that way you're capturing not only the frequency of the tone generator, but you're also capturing the reverberation of that frequency within that space. And then you can just put that through the whole length of your song as a loop. So that's probably the only way you're going to be able to do it, to be honest. That would really truly capture what you want, rather than just having a tone generator play a particular frequency with a splash of reverb. So I hope that that helps. But that is a really good question. I like it. Let's see. Radio Tuck Fumprit reveals himself. He says, I am Keith Chadwick, by the way, if you're not aware. Yes, that's cool. But yeah, you didn't have to do that. Let's see, we got any other questions? DJ Views says, I appreciate your work, passion, and commitment, and my rhetorical question is, how do I do it? Good question. I do it because I love what I do. I really do love what I do. I love the work that I do for Presonus, and I do lots of different things for Presonus, not just being a technical support agent. That's kind of the bulk of what I do, but it's not the only thing that I do. I also host the UK Studio One meetup, which meets on the last Friday of every month. Been hosting that for 3 years. Would you believe it? It's amazing. So I do that. I'm also one of the administrators of the Presonus Forum. And I'm also very present in the community in Presonosphere, where I answer people's questions there as well. What else do I do? I'm also involved a little bit in QA for Notion, the notation software. I do tech support for Notion as well. But I'm quite directly involved with the product team for Notion over in Hamburg, in Germany. So yeah, I've got my fingers in several Presonus pies, and I do it because I believe very much in the company, and I believe very much in our products. And you know what? The people that I work with are among the best people I've ever worked with, and I've had a long career in music. Professionally, that goes many decades back, and I've worked with a lot of people. I've worked with some very big name people, and I've worked with some fairly amateur musicians as well. But the people that I work with at Presonus are probably among the best people I've ever worked with, because they are the salt of the earth. They are honest. They are down to earth, and they are pretty ordinary people, and yet a good number of them are actually bona fide geniuses with exceptionally high IQs and are very, very clever at what they do. So yes, I love what I do, and I love Presonus customers, which is you guys, and anybody that is watching this that's not yet a Presonus customer. You are still part of my world. And you're still part of what I do, and I would love it if you came and joined us by purchasing Studio One or Notion or one of our hardware products. That would be awesome. But yeah, I love what I do, and I love making videos, and I love teaching and educating people on how music works. Because you know what? All I've ever done my entire life is been a voyage of discovery, finding out how music works. And discovering something else that I didn't know about what makes music work. And then I have, that drives my passion to then share those things that I discover about how music works. so that you guys get what I have, and hopefully you get the same sense of excitement that I have for discovering things about music. And so that's kind of what stimulated me going to university to go and do my undergraduate degree in music composition. And my focus there was jazz music composition. So I wrote some pieces for big band. My final piece was a piece for the university orchestra, choir, and big band, and featured my my quartet as well. So it was kind of a little big, even bigger kind of thing. And it was all kind of contemporary jazz is what I did. And then, of course, I did a postgraduate degree in music education because I love teaching and I'm very passionate about it. And so that has opened doors to being able to educate to the highest level, to, you know, kind of university level, as well as high school and college level as well. So, yeah, it's because I love what I do, basically. So thank you for that question. And it does take an enormous amount of energy. And where I find that energy from, I can only put down to one thing. And that is a bowl of Weetabix every day. At least one bowl of Weetabix every day. There you go. And this show is not sponsored by Weetabix, although it probably could be. All right, so let's see what else do we have. Waveform Laboratory is here. Hello, mate. Good to see you. He says, my old room was A flat, my new room is G sharp. Very, very cool. It's just slightly enharmonically changed. DJ Vu says, in my opinion, a good mix is not possible without good production. So that's sounds, what the heck is that word? Equanimization. Okay, I think you mean EQ, but that's okay. We'll take that. Equalization, appropriate frequencies, because it is impossible to get a good cake from a dented sheet metal. I think I understand what you mean. And I think what you're trying to say is the best way to get a good mix is to get the best recordings you can possibly get. I think it goes back a step before actually recording. I think you need to, first of all, have a solid arrangement. And to get a really good arrangement, you need to have a really good song or a really good instrumental piece of music. Yeah, I think it starts before then. Personally, for me, I think if you want to get a good mix, you have to go back a few stages and spend a lot of time on perfecting the song, perfecting the arrangement of the song, rehearse with the musicians who are going to be working on recording that song as much as possible to get basically so that you are pushing the performance into, you know, perfection and then past perfection. And then once you've got that song so that it's so well oiled by the people who are performing, then you get to, whoops, I smacked the mic again. Then you get to spending time getting the right microphones involved for the sources that you want to capture, and then setting those up, taking time to get those right and getting the recording levels right. And then when you hit record, everybody is well drilled in how this song goes, and they know their parts, and they know their parts so well they can actually make them sound improvised. And then when it comes to mixing is so much easier when you've got all of those things taken care of at the front end. You know, there are a lot of people that would say, oh, you know, we can fix those things in the mix later. No. You can, doesn't mean you should. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get the best results if you do. The best results are garnered from, I mean, even if you've got cheap microphones, even if you've got a cheap interface, even if you're recording into a laptop in a bedroom, you can still get great mixes, providing you get great recordings using what you have to the very best of your ability and to the very best that you can get out of the equipment that you have. And then mixing is definitely easier. You know, it's going to be, If you've got lower budget gear, when you're mixing, going to be a little bit more work. Not always, but it is going to be a little bit more work to get the mix to pull together. But it can be done, and if the song is outstanding, it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really matter too terribly much. The song should speak for itself, and you shouldn't necessarily need to tart it up or dress it up to make it into a hit. If the song is great, then to me everything else is extraneous. But that's just my POV. Not everybody will agree with that. Let's see. Billy is saying slap the thumb. Yes, please do. Hit the like button. That really helps me out a lot. Old School Funk and Soul says, I had a big upgrade problem over Christmas. With the help of Jonny, the support came through for me. Excellent. Yes, we worked that one out for you. We got you upgraded, which is cool. So I'm glad for that. I tuned it to 432. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, we're not going down the whole 432 thing. We're just not going down there. Let's see. We have a question from Donna, who says, is there a way to write audio to Notion? I've done it with MIDI. You can import audio into Notion, but they don't get converted into notation. They are just audio reference files. That is all they are. It'll never, there is no way currently that you can automatically have audio transcribed to notation. Certainly not with Notion, and certainly not with Studio One. There may be some other program out there that maybe can sort of do it. But the problem with it is, and this is always going to be the problem, is that whenever you try and turn an audio performance into notation, there are always going to be transcription errors. Even if it's even if you've got somebody with perfect pitch who writes it down for you into notation form, and then you just enter that notation into Notion, there's always going to be little errors here and there. And so it is if you've got a computer that is listening to your audio, it's going to try and make the best guess as to the note values, and it's going to get the pitches mostly right. That's pretty much where it's going to be most accurate, is it will detect the pitch correctly for the most part. The problem that computers have with trying to convert audio into notation is the rhythm, the note values. It will take its best guess, but it's not always accurate, and you'll find that you will spend quite a bit of time trying to tidy up the rhythm because it will be too exact. And, you know, it will say, okay, you, as far as you're concerned, you played a dotted quarter note. But the computer will interpret that as a certain number of clicks. And it will guess exactly how many clicks that is. And it will do a rough computation, and it will try and round that down to a notational value. And so it might come up with something like a dotted 8th note tied to a dotted 16th note, which is then tied to another 16th note, or something like that. And it gets to be a little bit of a mess, especially if you then hand that on to a musician. They're not going to be able to do anything with it. So MIDI is the way to go in notation, and certainly in Notion, because MIDI is just note on, note off, and pitch. That's all it needs. So it's dead easy. Again, you know, you may have to play around with some of the note values a wee bit, but no, there is currently no way to do anything with audio directly in terms of converting that in one go into notation. What you can do is you can use Melodyne in Studio One, and this works best if you've got a monophonic source. So, for example, let's take a trumpet, for example. You play your trumpet part into your microphone, and you record that in Studio One, and then you edit that with Melodyne. What that does is that Melodyne will convert automatically, without you telling it to, it will automatically generate MIDI notes in the background. And then you can drag that to an instrument like Presence. And then you can send that to Notion. So there is a few more steps involved, but it can sort of be done. And it will work. I've done it myself many times. Like, there's a piece of music that I have that I've been working in Notion, and I needed basically a transcription of a trumpet solo. So I played the trumpet solo into Studio One. I converted that into MIDI via Melodyne, dropped that straight into Presence, and then exported that to Notion, and then opened that in my score, and there it was. And I had to do a little bit of tidying up, but not a lot. Good question, though. Just Bob is asking, he says, I bought the Eris Sub 8 and the serial number matches on instructions and sub. I put in a ticket because the registration says the serial number is not valid. Server issues yesterday? Maybe, maybe not. But putting in the ticket is the right thing to do. Bear in mind, however, that tech support is only open on Mondays to Fridays, okay? They are not open at the weekend. So if you submitted a ticket yesterday, which is Saturday, it will not get picked up until tomorrow. But I know the guys who deal with speakers, and they deal with that side of thing, service-related issues, and they will get you sorted out. They will get you sorted out. It could be that the serial number is just incorrect. It's possible. I don't know. It could be that the serial number on the product is actually incorrect. That being the case, all you'll need to do is just attach your proof of purchase, so your receipt, something like that, and take a photograph of the serial number and the serial number on your receipt as well, and then attach those to your ticket, and they'll take care of you. They'll get that sorted out for you. Let's see. Bobby Booth says, I would love to go to school for music, but I can't, being disabled and not being able to afford it. Well, you're here. Consider this your school. And consider me your professor. I'd be happy to teach you. 432 is an interesting topic for sure. Yes, it is. It is an interesting topic, but I'm going to refer you to Adam Neely's 2 videos that he has on his channel to do with 432. Because they are incredibly in-depth, and I happen to agree with every word he says in both of those videos. And his conclusions are extremely compelling. So please go and check out his 2 videos on that to answer any issues with 432. DJ View says, I do exactly the same. Mixing and mastering are just additions to good sound. Thoughtful arrangement and care for good recording of all sounds. Yes, absolutely. Also, Funk Soul says, most pros will tell you a great mix comes from great recordings, live or in the box with VSTs. Bruce Sweden, Michael Jackson's producer, constantly preach this. Yeah, definitely. Waveform says, famous artists use particular favorite studios because of the particular sound of the rooms and mixers. Most are not tuned rooms. I would imagine that most recording rooms certainly wouldn't be tuned necessarily. They would have some baffling and things like that to get separation between different instruments. But things like Abbey Road, I've been to Abbey Road many, many times. And their recording rooms, yes, you're right, they have a particular different sound. Studio A sounds very different to Studio B. For, that's just to cite one example. And quite often, things like the Star Wars film scores have been recorded in Studio A. And so you get the London Symphony Orchestra, plus you get the sound of that awesome room baked into the recordings. So yeah, there is definitely that. John Hawk says, still can't get Melodyne to work. Please put in a support ticket, John, and we'll get that taken care of for you. DJ says, in my opinion, MIDI is like a conversion between you and us in a chat. There are messages on point, but there are no emotions in this communication accompanying us. Well, yeah, Melodyne is pretty much data. And actually sending anything from Studio One to Notion or exporting anywhere is just kind of data, really. It doesn't really capture emotion in that respect. Just Bob says, if just wanting chords for live guitar, can you drag up to the chord track to see the chords played? Yes, you can. You can certainly do that. And then you can check it for accuracy. The chord track is actually pretty good. But again, what it's doing is the algorithm is listening to if it's a live guitar part rather than a MIDI track, it will just get it. The key thing here is the chord track will try and interpret the chord based on the voicing of the chord. It doesn't necessarily take context into account. Doesn't always do that. Basically, what it does is it listens to the chord and it listens to the voicing of that chord, and it makes its best guess based upon musical rules built into its algorithm to determine what that chord might be. Sometimes it is right, sometimes it is wrong. It is not perfect, but it is actually pretty darn good. I will tell you that mostly, I would say about 95% of the time, it will give you the correct chord. It might not necessarily give you the correct nomenclature. Sometimes it will say that based on the notes in that chord, it is this chord. And you go, well, actually, it can, because of the context of my piece of music, it is in fact this chord. It's the same notes, but it's just based on different context. And so you can go into the chord track and you can edit that, and you can change it so that it has the correct spelling of that chord. But the chord track will definitely detect your chords for sure. And it's very, very clever because, you can change chord types. For example, if you're playing a song and you've recorded it in, and you decide, you know what, we've got an E major chord here. The song is in G, and we've got an E major chord in the middle of this section that doesn't really fit because it's not going to A minor. It's going somewhere else. Wouldn't it be better if that was an E minor chord? You can do that. You can just, in the chord track, you can type in E minor, and guess what? It will correct not only the MIDI, but the audio as well of any tracks that are following the chord track. It will change the audio, it will change the MIDI so that it is playing E minor instead of E major. That to me is awesome. So yeah, it will do that. Sean White is here. He says, season's greetings. You're a wee bit late for that, my friend, but that's all right. But I'm glad you're here. Yes, we are well into January already. All of our Christmas and New Year stuff is all put away, and we're well into... we had snow for most of January, and it finally melted away overnight yesterday. So I'd forgotten what green grass looks like, I'll be honest, because for most of December and most of January, we had snow on the ground. So it was a little bit startling to see green grass again, which I haven't seen for, 8 weeks. So that was an interesting one. Tuning rooms is overrated. Well, each to their own opinion. Huge industry in the home studio market, but intelligent use of soft and interrupted wall surfaces and carpets works well. Knowing your speakers first. Knowing your speakers first is definitely important. I'll agree with you there. But you have to bear in mind that most people are not in purpose-built rooms, purpose-designed rooms for recording or mixing. This, for example, this room that I'm in is not designed for recording and mixing. It's not. It's built to be a bedroom. So it has parallel facing surfaces because nobody's thinking, this room might be used for some other purpose. Let's make sure that none of the walls are facing each other and parallel. So it's designed to be a bedroom. And most people that have studios at home, that is where they are. They are either using a spare bedroom or they're in the basement of their house. Again, the basement is designed for storage. It's not designed for recording or mixing. So you're going to have to do some acoustic treatment to deal with inherent issues with parallel facing surfaces and all of that stuff. Especially if your space is dedicated for mixing. So yeah, there is that, and I think that's important. Just Both says we finally had a light dusting of dandruff covering our green grass. Oh really? Yeah. Yeah, we had throughout December, we had like a good, like, I think it would have been about this much snow on the ground. And then it went away, it melted away for like, I don't know, 18 hours. And then we had fresh snowfall on top of that, which was about this deep. And that's been sat there all of January. The snow came on, January 3rd or January 4th. But it has been so cold that the snow has not melted away, even though we've had no new snow, and it's been glorious, beautiful sunshine for like the last 2 weeks. The temperature has stayed well below freezing for the entire time, so the snow has just never melted away, even though it's been subject to direct sunlight. But really, the last 3 days, the temperature has gone above freezing for the first time in 2 months, which is unusually cold for South Scotland. North Scotland, up in the Highlands, they will have temperatures that are well below freezing for the entire winter season, and they will get, multiple feet of snow on the ground up there, which is why there's a ski resort up there called the Cairngorms. But down here in the Central Belt, you don't get that. We'll get some snow, and it'll be a little bit chilly for a wee while. It may dip below freezing for a wee part of the winter period, and then that's it, it's gone. But this winter, very, very, very cold. Unusually so. But we didn't get the kind of snow that we got back in 2010, where we had like 4 or 5 feet of snow in the Central Belt, which was exceptionally unusual. And the temperature did go like 14 degrees below zero and stayed there for, I think, over a month. That was exceptional. And this winter was fairly exceptional in terms of it being cold, but we didn't really have loads and loads of snow. All right, we got just over 10 minutes left, guys. We got 15 minutes left, in fact. Sean White says, what if you built out one of your walls with sound treatment off axis from the rest of the room to make it not parallel? Yes, you can certainly do that. So long as your walls are not kind of facing each other, even if you put like diffusers or something along one side of the wall so that when the sound bounces back, it gets scattered by the diffusers, that will definitely help. And it'll help break up reflections, it'll help break up standing waves and room tones and that kind of stuff. And of course, you'll need to dispel some of the low end in the room that will build up. That's another thing. Bass build up in rooms like this is extremely commonplace, and so some bass trapping will be required to deal with that. Now, what I'm trying to achieve in this room is not completely kill it. I'm not attempting to kill all the frequencies in this room and make it as dead as possible. That's not what I'm trying to do, and I don't think I would recommend that to you in your home studios. I would recommend that what you do is you tame outstanding frequencies, and you tame points where you're going to get phase cancellations, where you're going to get flutter echo, where you're going to get comb filtering, where you're going to get standing waves and things like that. You want to tame those so that they don't have as big an impact upon what you're doing in your room and in Studio One as possible. Are you going to get it perfect? No, you're not. Your room is not going to be perfect. It just isn't, because it's not purpose built. It's not acoustically, sonically designed. Whereas, you know, commercial studios, commercial spaces tend to be. Certainly their mixing and control rooms will tend to be designed that way. Recording rooms, not so much. Like, for example, if you go into Studio A of Abbey Road, you will see that there are some diffusers up on the walls, quite high up actually, because the room is incredibly large, not just in width, but in height as well. It's really quite big. And so up at the tops, you will find that there is some absorption, and you'll also find that there is some diffusion up on those walls as well. And of course, there are also baffles for different reasons, so that you can get separation from whatever you're recording in, whatever different elements you're recording in that space, which will, of course, make mixing a lot easier. But recording spaces, they don't necessarily need an awful lot of acoustic treatment, because you're not looking to kill that room. You're not looking to make it dead. You're looking to make, you know, control the ambience of the space so that you get the best quality recordings you can get. So that would be what I would suggest. So, but, you know, this is a discussion that can go on and on and on. And you know what? There's lots of different opinions. Lots of different opinions. I mean, there are some studios where instead of actually having foam up on the walls, they'll have like strategically placed bookshelves stacked with books, because those will absorb. Those are good broadband absorbing things. They will absorb lots of low end and lots of low mids and that kind of stuff. So if you are using your room as both a recording and a mixing space, then you will want to acoustically treat your mixing space, and then you can leave, you know, kind of like further back in your room where you do your recordings, where you set up your microphones and your musicians perform. You can get away with a lot less. You don't need quite so much. But certainly where you are mixing, you will want to acoustically treat so that you can trust what is coming out of your speakers directly, more accurately, which is why I have some acoustic treatment up in this room. Because otherwise, without it, this room is awful. It really is. I can't make head or tail out of what's coming out of the speakers if I take all of this acoustic treatment off the walls. Is it perfect acoustic treatment? No, it's not. This is a brand new house. So one of the things that we were told by the developers, by the builders of this house, is don't hang stuff up on the walls until you've been in the house and the house has had time to settle. So I put up some temporary acoustic treatment on my walls. And it's basically some 1 foot by 2 foot, 2-inch thick foam panels glued to card, pinned to the walls. That's it. All it's doing is it's just killing some of the reflections. It's just taming the room a wee bit, enough that I can trust what's coming out of the speakers directly, and that I'm not going to get the sound coming out of the speakers bouncing off the walls and coming back in and cancelling out what I'm hearing from the speakers, or enhancing things coming from unnaturally enhancing things coming from the speakers via reflections. You don't want that. And I really don't think that there is any argument about that. Or at least there shouldn't be, from people that actually know what they're talking about. But it's definitely true that you should learn your room and you should use reference music. Definitely agree with that. Learn what your room sounds like and learn what good mixes sound like in your room. So put on records or MP3s through the speakers that you use to mix on in your room, and put on that music that you know has been mixed really, really well. And then get to know what that sounds like in your space, in your room. And then you can reference your mixes against those as you're learning your room. It takes a wee bit of time to learn your room, but once you have become accustomed to what your room sounds like, you learn how to make corrections for your room in the mix, so that your room is not lying to you. And there's something else that he says here, and it's just jumped. Here we go. Learn your speakers. Definitely. And if possible, have a few different types of or brands of speakers, both small and large. Yeah, definitely. Have different speakers. I have one set of Eris E5s that I have here, but I also have my monitor station goes to just an old boombox. I also have earbuds connected to it as well. So I've got several different things that I can listen to my mixes on, not just my main Eris E5 speakers. I've got other things that I can listen to. Donna says, I sent Auralex my dimensions and they designed the treatment for my room before I purchased. Yes, absolutely. Auralex are good for that, actually. Interrupted surfaces and floor and ceiling coverings are key. Foam diffusers can do that, but only high-end. Yeah, foam is only really good for kind of the high-end. It doesn't really deal with the low mids or the low bass tones. Really doesn't. For that, you need more robust materials than foam. So, and there are plenty of different materials that are out there that will, thicker materials that will deal with low mids and low end frequencies. Pretty good. So, I mean, what I have on the walls here is only designed to kill some of the high frequencies that are definitely a pain in the arse in this particular room. Low mids, actually, weirdly, are not that much of a big deal in this room. In my old room, they were. There were definitely issues at about 320 to 420. There were issues in that particular room. And had I not been renting that old room, then I would have put up some much thicker, sort of 4-inch thick broadband material that would have absorbed those particular frequencies and tamed those down so that they're not so much of a problem. You're not wanting to kill them, you're just wanting to balance them. You don't want kind of like everything here and then have this particular frequency jump out in the room. You don't want that. You want everything to kind of be as close to balance like this as possible across the frequency spectrum in your room. You're not going to get it perfectly because it's not possible. NS10s are awful. They are the world's worst speakers, but you know what? They don't lie to you. They are so incredibly mid-rangey. If your mixes have a little bit too much hype in the mid-range area, NS10s will tell you, and you know you need to back those off. Definitely. If you're using headphones to mix, get a good headphone amp. And he cites a few sources there. Yeah, Neve are going to be expensive, naturally, and they are going to be outside of most people's budget. But there is a bunch of good suggestions there from both Mike Johnson and Waveform Laboratory as well. So go check out some of those responses. There is much there that I don't agree with, as much as there is stuff there that I do agree with. Mike is asking me Zoom. Yes, go ahead, Mike. Stick your link in the chat, and if folks want to come along and join the after show party, you can do. I'll be there, but I'm really, really tired, so I'm only going to stick around for a little while because I have a very busy day ahead of myself tomorrow, which I cannot talk about, but I'm very excited about. So, but suffice to say, folks, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of your support in 2022. And as we get 2023 underway, there's a lot of cool stuff that I have in the planning phase at the moment. And I've got some video series that I'm putting together that over the course of the next few weeks and few months, you will start to see those coming out on the channel. It's going to be awesome. And just one other piece of news that I want to give you guys before I go, and that is that Songwriting Simplified, the show that Jonny, Gaib, and I have been doing for the past several years together, for the foreseeable future, until further notice, I am going to be hosting that right here on this channel, on my own, until further notice. And that's basically just by way of being able to give Jonny a break, which he definitely needs, so that he can go and take care of some things in his family life and his personal life. And also just, you know, the fact the guy has been doing daily live streams for the last several years. And, you know, that takes a lot out of you. I mean, I only do this once a week, and it does take a lot out of you. Just doing 1 hour of talking to a microphone, talking to you guys, and answering questions and doing demonstrations and all of that, it really does. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you expend a lot of energy doing it. So to do it 5 nights a week for several years, the guy needs a vacation. So we're going to let him have his vacation. He's going to stop doing his live streams for a while, to give himself a break, but he is going to be uploading videos to his channel, so please don't unsubscribe from his channel, just because his live streams are coming to an end for a season. He's still going to be putting out great content. There's going to be a bunch of Studio 16 videos that he is working on. He's got a whole load ready to go already. They're going to start popping up on his channel. Go watch his videos. Go hit like every time you see one of his videos. And share them with your friends and get those people watching, and then get those people subscribing. And I would appreciate it if you did the same for me too. We are very close now to getting to 5,000 subscribers. This has been a milestone that I have been aiming for, and I had hoped to have achieved it last year, but we didn't quite. We are just under 100 subscribers short, so we're getting very close. And I would really like to get past that 5,000 subscriber mark. When we get there, I'm cooking up a bit of a plan to do a prize giveaway. And I'm working with my good friend Louis at Alps Media on how we're going to do that. But really, I want to be able to celebrate 5,000 subscribers. So if you can help me get to 5,000 subscribers, we can do a little random draw where we just draw somebody from the chat at random, who we will give something to, some Personas gear of some kind to. So if you guys are interested in that and you want to be a part of it, and you want to be a part of the celebration of getting me to 5,000 subscribers, then please help me out. Get some people in here and get some people subscribed to the channel and get the views up, watching Sunday Night Live and the other videos that I've got coming as well. It would really bless me a lot, and you would make me a very happy guy, and I want to make you guys happy too. So giveaways are going to become a little bit more of a thing that we do around here. So if you guys are interested in that, then please get subscribed and get all your friends and your friends' tennis partners and your friends' tennis partners' friends, and your friends' tennis partners' friends' pets. Tortoises, I don't care. Get them subscribed. We need more tortoises subscribing to this channel. There we go. Of your nearly 5,000 subs, how many are women? I have no idea, but the analytics will tell me. I'm pretty sure. But anyway. I'm going to ignore a couple of remarks that are being made here in the chat. I'm not mentioning any names, but I'm going to ignore them because they're not fair. Okay, and with that, we're ending the show. Has Mike posted his link? Yes, he has. He's going to launch in about 5 minutes or so. So if you want to join the chat, hit that Zoom link, and we'll get over there. And it should be fun. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. I really appreciate it. that is being removed. Cool. All right, folks. Good night, everybody. And I'll see you very, very soon. Cheers.